Soon you'll be set truly free.
𝘀𝘀cie unmuted.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
It appears it's
welcome everyone. We're jumping on in for some VCS action today. We saw two banging series yesterday. Well, two teams got banged, might be the better way to put it. Two clean 2-0s, and maybe we'll be seeing some more 2-0s coming through today. 𝘀𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀 are taking on 𝘀𝑠𝑢ry Esports in our first game of the day. I have 𝘀𝑚𝑐𝑠 and 𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀 alongside me. How are you wonderful people doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Looking forward to getting to see some of the rest of the top of the table with 𝘀𝗀 and 𝘀𝑚𝑐𝑠, and crowd favorites BTS with 𝘀𝘀are and 𝘀𝑠𝑢ry. Everyone's favorites.
Yeah. 𝘀𝘀are fan club's out in full force today. I'm telling you, we're going to have thousands of viewers. We got everybody. Their donations are coming right to us because everybody that's here to help out 𝘀𝘀are, they're here for BTS, just because it's been a while since we've had a chance to watch either of these two teams. It should be an exciting little day of games, let alone this first series, which it has plenty of implications to it.
Now, 𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀, I'm going to go to you first on this one because 𝘀𝘀sky and 𝘀𝑠𝑢ry, both these teams in Spring Split, they were dead last, albeit they were tied. So heading on into this game, the first two times these teams are playing in winter, which of them do you think have the upper hand and why?
So I think the big thing that is that only one of these teams really made a significant change, and that is 𝘀𝑠𝑢ry. They brought in Coated in the postseason. We saw him play with under 𝘀𝑠𝑢ry on the promotion tournament, and they looked quite a bit better. They've also brought in a new bot lane, which is a bit of a side grade, slight upgrade, but compare that to BTS, where they've got a bit of a side grade in the bot lane and pretty underwhelming rookies from the top lane replacing Hero, who was underwhelming himself. It's only one of them has really made that step up in terms of roster moves, but maybe they've leveled up their play as a whole.
And Rebel, do you echo those thoughts?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to what is, I think, living up to potential for the two of these teams. I think there's tons of players on both squads that last split we had at least decent expectations of, and neither of which really lived up to anything close to what we wanted them to. 𝘀𝑠𝑢ry specifically was really disappointing last split because they came out of the promotion tournament swinging with Soren out of the jungle, and we're like, wow, this actually might be a team that could compete for a playoff spot. They're not going to win playoffs, but they could compete for one. And then to come out and be basically bottom two in the league, extremely falling short of their expectations, was disappointing beyond belief. I'm hoping that new additions to these rosters combined with a little bit more time after the spring split has given them some introspection to help get these players back on track.
And Rebel, you mentioned how they came out of the last promotion tournament swinging, or the spring promotion tournament swinging. They went 3-0. They did the same again in the summer promotion tournament, going 3-0. So to swing over to you, 𝘀𝑚𝑐𝑠, do you think this is going to be another case of 𝘀𝑠𝑢ry falling flat, or do you think second time is the charm for them?
I think 𝘀𝑠𝑢ry, in theory, should have a better shot. They have a much more solid top laner again in Coated, who will play pretty much the same way as 𝘀𝘀 did, but much better. And again, the bot lane, as long as they're self-sufficient, Vit should be better than Shine at just not dying and giving up advantages. So I think they have the potential to really come into their own. They're not playing Sorn anymore, so they're not going to just throw away games by running him over 𝘀𝘀queen. So this is 𝘀𝘀queen's big chance to actually just say, yeah, I earned this spot. He had pretty great stats last year, despite being on a bottom place team. So granted, he only played about half the games compared to everyone else, but yeah.
And Rebel, one player that I would like to talk about in particular for 𝘀𝘀sky is 𝘀𝑚𝑐𝑠, the mid laner, because he's a player that, in my opinion, I think has been one of the standout. If any player is a standout for 𝘀𝘀sky, it's been in the mid lane.
I thought you were going to say 𝘀𝘀are, and I got really excited, and then you didn't. Now I'm disappointed
No.
in you
Yeah.
for not mentioning, of course, to the president of the 𝘀𝘀are fan club, his favorite player. That's okay, though. I also am a pretty big
Hang on, just to jump in. Are you
Sure.
𝘀𝘀are's favorite fan, or are you Froggy's
Am I
favorite
Draktar's
fan?
favorite plan? I haven't talked to Draktar, so I don't know if I'm his favorite fan. But touching
Okay.
back on your point, Glory's been somebody I've appreciated since the first time that I casted inside of VCS. In fact, my first series was Glory versus, I think it was at the time Flash, so it was 𝘁𝗍 who he was playing, which was kind of a mismatched matchup. But Glory, even back then, we were talking about, okay, this is pretty much the only player we have a bunch of faith in for what was, I think it was 𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀𝗀 at the time when he was
Percent
playing.
at the time.
𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀. My apologies. Yeah, the two of them always get mixed up in my brain. There's a bunch of potential there. And what's even funnier is like there are times where he's outplayed some of our better mid lanes inside of the VCS. But the thing that really just plagues a number of the players here, and especially Glory, is just consistency in being able to carry a game altogether. And what we need to see is, okay, can Glory either transition to a style where he's helping out Draktar, 𝘀𝗎𝗍, Ryuk, whoever it is, try to help carry, or can he actually take up the reins for the team, go, I'm going to carry everything, give me resources so that I can go beat down 𝘀𝗍𝗻, whoever it is across from him.
Yeah, I
And
remember when Glory first came in, promoting from VCSB, I was really excited because I was like, do we actually have a good mid laner not called DL1 in the VCS? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. He was a bit of a disappointment, but over to my admittedly very high expectations. But overall, I think he solidified himself as pretty well one of the better mid laners. But I mean, we don't really have very good mid laners in the league, so
𝘁𝗍 is screaming right now, I think. But just to give a bit of extra content to Glory, again, playing for 𝘀𝗀𝗀 in spring, the team that finished joint last, but he still had a +7 CS difference at a 15. So he's strong in laning phase at the very least. I'm going to move on to the jungle matchup, and I'm going to lead with you, 𝘀𝗀𝗋, because that way, if you say anything about Draktar, Rebel can come back in and curse you. I don't really know. But let's talk about this 𝘁𝗀 Draktar matchup, because 𝘁𝗀 has been decent for 𝘀ક્ષury in spring split. Again, looking over to those CS differences at 15 +12, and he likes to play those early game junglers, the Nidalee, the Graves.
yeah, I think if you look across stats, you would be saying, oh, 𝘁𝗀 is a better jungler. But then you have to consider, did not play a couple of series against 𝘀𝗀 and 𝘀𝗶, which would have knocked his stats down a bit. He played very selfish junglers, almost one-tricking Nidalee during the 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 meta, which was really snowballing his stats in terms of getting really high farm numbers compared to those sort of junglers. But overall, I think they both sort of fit the same sort of role as sort of they're very forward, they're very aggressive, looking into the jungle, trying to be the big star, big playmakers of the team and control the early game map pressure and let their laners do their thing. Unfortunately for them, usually it's just their laners don't back them up or are over pushing when they're on the wrong side of the map. 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. And that specific problem's been fixed for 𝘁𝗀𝗀, so maybe he should be able to work with coaches. From memory, he did that pretty well during the promotion tournament, so I think 𝘁𝗀𝗀 might end up having the edge, but that might be due to laner strength rather than difference from the jungler as an individual.
And Rebel, what do you think? This is an even matchup, or do you think Draktar far and away has this one?
I think that 𝘁𝗀𝗀's got a propensity to continue going back to what I would consider to be like tempo junglers, where it's okay, you can attack at specific points on the map, but also outside of that, you're typically sticking to farming. Junglers like Nidalee is a big one where you really want to hit early, but then you stick to farming because she can farm like an absolute beast. Graves fits this mold. Hecarim fits this mold if you're playing him incorrectly, which a lot of our junglers did inside of the VCS in the previous split. These are problems that we have. Lilia was also among this. I know the Lilia fan club had plenty of words for a lot of the VCS junglers who were very slow to picking up that champion, and he had a problem on that as well. So yes, farm numbers looked great, but really didn't have much of that effect. The difference is Soren was doing that, but he was just inting as well, which was the big problem for the team. And so 𝘀ક્ષury needs a lane. I think 𝘀𝗀𝗻 is probably the best bet, but honestly, Coded could also fit this mold. Somebody to help support 𝘁𝗀𝗀. And it's a question of, okay, burst the sky. They have similar problems across their ranks. Glory is not playing something that's getting massive pushing power. You got like Galio in every single mid laner's pool for some reason in the VCS. But outside of that, I mean, you don't have these crazy pushing lanes for Ryuk. You don't have these crazy pushing lanes for 𝘀𝗎𝗍. this feels like a series where we might get interaction between the junglers as just a one-on-one interaction if these lanes are not moving quick enough. If that's the case, I'm going to favor 𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗃 most of the time. He has that mechanical edge. The hands are there for him, but the support more likely actually comes out of Coated and Blazes. And so my expectation is that's how 𝘀𝑠hi𝗰 is going to play. They're going to want pushing lanes, and they're going to help out their jungler.
I think actually a big thing for 𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗃 to sort of shift away from jungle is to look down and say 𝘀𝑎 is going to be much better than 𝘁3. And especially sort of getting out on the map, he was a Bard one trick back in the day, so he shouldn't be all about the getting out of the lane and roaming around. So, and with 𝘁𝗍𝒆 coming back in, 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗃 now, it's going to be a little bit interesting to see how they pair up, because 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗃 loves the lane bullies, loves the Lucian, loves the 𝘁𝗀ista. He was even playing MF 2 years ago when it wasn't a real pick. So just really likes these strong lane picks that just keep the pressure on the lane. So I think we might see a bit of a mismatch there initially. But if 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗃 is able to just get on, say, an MF and control the lane by himself, 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗃 could match up with 𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗃 and just that 2v2 duo could just roam and control the map.
I do want to just cut in with that, because maybe you didn't mention something that I think could be very vital to how the series plays out, which is the support matchup. 𝘀𝑖O against 𝘁3, and you think 𝘀𝑖O has the upper hand on 𝘁3. Just to give some clarity for our viewers who may not have been watching in the spring split, 𝘁3 wasn't on the team, so we actually haven't seen him play since 2020.
We saw him in the summer promotion for VCSB, where he got blown out, and Genius Esports just kind of got rolled. So
fair enough. I have not seen that series myself.
Hats off to 𝘁𝗀𝗃 in that series, who actually was low-key smurfing the majority of VCSB, and that just got absolutely inted by his entire map. My condolences to Mr. 𝘁𝗀𝗃. I hope he finds a team eventually.
Free him.
Okay, we are a couple of minutes away from jumping on in to draft for the first game. So I have a question for both of you wonderful analysts, and actually a question that Twitch chat can get involved with as well. Now, yesterday we had some, you could say crazy picks, some would say bad picks. We saw the Nidalee amongst one of a few spicy picks. Yeah. Rebel, I'll start with you. What do you think is going to be the weirdest pick we're going to see in this series?
I'm going to be extremely, extremely upset if I do not get the man whose namesake is a lethality item playing Talon for the first time. How is it that the VCS has not picked up this champion? This is like the most absurdly aggressive jump over walls and into towers, exactly the style that VCS is going to be going for most of the time on most of their junglers. How is it that we did not pick that up yesterday? If somebody's going to do it, it's got to be 𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗃, and I'm hoping that the Talon jungle rears its head sometime during the course of this play, because it's an exciting pick, came about in Worlds, it has its strength, and now this is the guy that's going to be able to make that pick work better than probably anyone else.
And 𝘁𝗶𝗶, for you?
In terms of weird picks, I think you're probably going to look towards, I don't know, probably say, it's hard to, I actually don't know. You might look towards the bot lane with, having a bit more of a suspect sort of champ. He has the Lucian, he has
Go
the
on, say the Bard, say the Bard.
Away. But yeah, the Bard is the obvious one if there's enough bans down towards that support position, and hey, maybe 𝘀𝑖O wants that enchanter, but not the traditional ones. Doesn't want to be stuck in lane. Wants to get out, have some fun, see the world. I would like to see the Bard, but I really just it's not a weird pick at all. But please, 𝘀𝑚𝗁, play 𝘁𝗀. I say this every time.
I think a lot of us can get behind that particular pick. Also, Rebel, I just want to go back to you on the Talon pick. Sure, his name is a reference to some lethality items, but Talon doesn't go lethality anymore. He goes Gore Drinker. Isn't that a bit boring?
Sure. Is it boring? Yes. Is he going to do it? Probably anyway. Doesn't really matter. He's going to go Yumu's probably before anything else. If he's able to snowball at all, just so he has the speed. It's a great item to actually use inside of 11-19. This is the perfect patch for a Talon pick, just because you can go into that early lethality and spike people down super quickly. But yeah, you could say what you want. He was doing the same thing on other champions. I'm pretty sure on 𝘁𝗃𝗃 he ended up building, it was 𝘁𝗃𝗃 back when he had played it exactly one time. We were like, oh, 𝘀𝘀𝗃𝗃𝗃 is going to build the 𝘀𝘀𝗃𝗃 item, and then he didn't. He built the 𝘁𝗃𝗃, and he was so upsetting to all of us at the time. But
Well, we'll see what does come through. We are about to jump on in to pick some bans. And just a reminder, again, 𝘀𝘀cie, 𝘀𝑺ry, they were both at the bottom of Spring Split. But on the converse side, this makes this an incredibly important game for both teams, doesn't it, 𝘁𝗶𝗶𝗹𝘀?
Yeah, I mean, you want to sort of make sure you can beat the group around you. There's not going to be relegations this split, so you don't have to worry so much about coming last in that sort of fear. But you want to sort of beat the guy at the bottom, beat the one you tied with last year, and just crawl your way up. And taking scalps at the bottom is a must, because you can't rely on taking the scalps at the top. You can't rely on taking down 𝘀𝗀𝗋. So beat the other guy.
And 𝘁𝗶𝗹, we'll jump to predictions, and I'll let you give your prediction first, mainly so that 𝘁𝗶𝗶𝗹 can adapt and improve after you give whatever weird prediction you're going to give. Who do you think comes out on top?
I think that 𝘀𝗀𝗋 does. This is mostly predicated on, okay, VCSB, this clearly happened. 𝘀𝗀𝗋 is coming in. He's a consistent top laner. I know we talked about 𝘁 and 𝘁3 both coming into the bottom lane. They were the duo on that Genius Esports squad. I didn't like the two of them when they were paired together, particularly. I think 𝘁 is the better of the two. If I could play 𝘀𝑠hiine and 𝘁, I would, but I'd actually rather see 𝘀𝑠hiine in. Last split when he had 𝘀𝘀𝗶𝗏 was abysmal in the last split, especially in terms of just giving up kills, giving up plays. I want to see somebody who can help him play a bit more on the front foot in that bottom lane. We don't get a bunch of that in VCS, and I feel like if you're playing 𝘁3, he's got a bunch of kind of protective picks in the back pocket. I know TK was in there, but also 𝘀𝗀, 𝘀𝑚, very good champions for him inside of his pool, and it might open up a bit more for what is himself in that. Although it is going to be 𝘁 in today, as we can see on the screen, I think.
Yep, so we are jumping on into picks and bans. We've got the first few bans coming through. And we talked a little bit about the Lucian or possibility, and that has been taken away by the side of 𝘀𝑺ry.
Yeah, but we are seeing 𝘂𝑚ie getting through, and 𝐿𝑖O, he's a comfortable on Enchanter, so he's going to jump straight onto that. But this will be actually our first time seeing Graves on the map, as well as 𝘁𝑎𝑐. So a lot of OP picks coming through. 𝘀𝘀𝑠ky, not really going for those big bans on their blue side. They went for Nami after Lucian was already banned. Very interesting read coming out from them.
And 𝘁𝗶𝗹, we talked a little bit about the early game aggression we could have seen from 𝘁𝗀𝗋. He's got the Graves. Is this a champion that you wanted to see him on?
I mean, we're assuming that this is going to be, if it's jungle Graves, it could still be top Graves. That guy played plenty, and it would be the first adaptation we've seen. And I would like that as well, although it's not really much of a coded champion. I feel like coded is more of the 𝐾𝑎𝑚𝑒 player, so I'm happy that they banned that out. Both teams, I think, flexing a little bit more of the muscle. One of the things that I'm actually noting mostly is that, okay, 𝘂𝑚ie got taken by the side of 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝑺, right? That's one less player that has to click buttons. So now that's one less person who can make mistakes. So that actually might be a difference maker inside of this series. Is one less person to make mistakes.
Hey, we've got the talent, 𝘁𝗶𝗏.
Whew.
And on the other side,
excited.
Qiyana. This is going to be a very exciting jungle matchup, honestly.
Oh, yes.
And this is the matchup you wanted to be watching. But I'll let 𝘁𝗏𝗏 talk about his talent for Drakthar.
Like I said, it's a fitting champion for the way that he has played for multiple seasons. He has got hands. That means he's got the ability to use this talent, insane mobility, and the mechanics behind him to try to find these like really unique angles for ganking. And it's a very attacking jungler. It's not really intended to be here and sit back. And I like this a lot because that means that 𝑔l_ORY doesn't have to go support Drakthar in 2v2s. We got Drakthar supporting the rest of his map, attacking Ryuk, attacking that bottom lane, attacking for 𝑔l_ORY, and being a weapon to use in the early game for 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, which is how I've wanted him to play since I saw him in my first split of VCS, and I was trying to tell everybody, I was like, Drakthar is the better of the two junglers. Why aren't they starting Drakthar? And no one would believe me.
And by the way, we might get lethality on this Talon because
Yes.
it's 11:21.
Well,
we were on 11:19 for one day.
We jumped 2 patches. We didn't even get out of the first week of games yet.
Yeah, all right. This is
okay,
insane.
𝘁𝗶𝗏, I want to throw to you with something quickly because we talked a little bit about 𝘿𝑖O, and in your words, I think it was play an Enchanter, but why don't you play an Enchanter that can roam, see the world? We've got the 𝘂𝑚ie locked in. Is this something that you were expecting to see from 𝘿𝑖O and now paired up with this Tristana for 𝘂𝑚ie?
I mean, when it's available, I absolutely was expecting to see it sort of picked up, and he can still see the world as long as 𝘀𝗀𝗺 makes his way down, just hop onto the Talon and ride on his shoulders until the end of time. The Jax counter pick into 𝘁𝗀𝗺's that's a little bit questionable to me. I don't necessarily think that'll pan out great. I don't know, but especially because from what I've seen of Ryuk, he's not really that sort of star top laner that you'd want on something as volatile as Jax. So he could very easily fall apart in the early laning phase and not get to that stage where Jax becomes that monster.
And Rebel, that Graves will be going into the top lane, pairing against the Jax from Ryuk. Ryuk, again, in his second split of VCS. His first split didn't go great. What do you make of this matchup, and do you think Ryuk can make amends for Spring?
So Ryuk had very kind of brief moments. I talked about this with him and 𝘁𝗀𝗆, where 𝘁𝗀𝗆 had moments of fleeting brilliance, but then was also a mediocre stand-in top laner. Ryuk had moments of fleeting brilliance, was horrible all split. So that's the difference. So hopefully he could capture some of that, the way that I think that 𝘀𝗀𝗺 has showed that, I think 𝘀𝑺ry has showed that, I think even 𝘂𝗎𝑚𝑖 at times has shown probably much more of it than any of the other counterparts, 𝘀𝑺ry as well along those lines. But if Ryuk and 𝘀𝗀𝗺 can kind of show that level of expectation for us, this Jax can do some pretty crazy things into a Graves. I've actually watched really top-level Jax players, as TonyTop out of the North American server. He auto-spaced a Graves top laner to death at level 2 with just the counter-strike and the W. He was absolutely smurfing on this pick, and there's nothing as the Graves that you can really do into it. It's one of the very few matchups that the Graves has to be very careful in.
And just to quickly throw to you, 𝘁𝗶𝗶, who do you think's got the better draft, and who's one player to watch out for this game?
I think 𝘀𝗀𝗺's got it because, I mean, their big supposed weakness fits on Jhin, so don't worry about it. And then I'm very interested to see the jungle matchups across both of them. Both of them are on explosive picks.
Well, 𝘁𝗶𝗶, thank you very much. I'm going to be jumping on in for the cast with Rebel, and we'll be catching up with 𝘁𝗁𝗏𝑔𝗍 after the game. Rebel, do you echo 𝘁𝗁𝗏𝑔𝗍's thoughts? 𝘀𝗀𝗺 to take the win, and this jungle matchup to be what we need to be watching out for?
The jungle matchup, I think, dictates so much of the early game. The reason I think 𝘀𝗀𝗺 does win this is because their composition is just so much more balanced. There's a lot more potential threat. You got like Twisted Fate roaming. You've got Jin's range to work with. You've got like team fighting ultimate of the Rakan and the Qiyana. There's so much of it. But if the early game goes heavily into the favor of either team, it feels like that's just going to stop. And I actually think that 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏 has a better early game composition for trying to snuff out what happens with 𝘀𝗀𝗏𝗏. When you're attacking a Jhin who is immobile, when you're attacking a Rakan who is immobile, and you've got these kind of very big damage threats that can jump on you rather quickly, like Tristana, like the LeBlanc, like the Talon, there's so much potential threat in the early game to just get rolled over that 𝘀𝗀𝗏𝗏 does have to be at least keep their wits about them to begin the game.
And when you do look at both teams do have that pick potential. You look over to Twisted Fate, level 6 with the Destiny, absolutely massive. But as you said, 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, a lot of early game aggression as well with that Talon and LeBlanc. But BTS, they've got a lot of disengaged potential. Pretty much every single champion on that team has a way of escaping.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's completely untrue. And there are also interactions, I think, with these champions. For example, Jhin is actually one of the highest win rate ADCs when it comes to a LeBlanc matchup, because he can dump all of his crit shot, whether it be first shot or fourth shot, doesn't matter, into a LeBlanc who's trying to jump in on him. If she doesn't assassinate, she is taking enough of her health bar, especially on 2-3 items from a Jhin, that is a true deterrent. 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 has to be legitimately careful about how he's going to play up against the likes of the Jhin. And those are things that also come about. You have that from Graves, where Graves can combo and take a large amount of your health bar. The same from Qiyana. If you aren't super precision clean with some of these plays that are actually coming out from the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, or from the side of 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, the 𝘀𝗀𝗏, like you said, has a bunch of these escape tools, a bunch of turning tools to be able to kind of shift the game on its head.
And with that, we are into a game. 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 taking on 𝘀𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 Esports. BTS, or I should say 𝘁𝗀, over on the blue side, 𝘀𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 over on the red, and we talked about the importance of this jungle matchup. Both junglers starting on the bottom side of the map, so maybe we'll be getting to see 𝘁𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 and 𝘀𝗀𝗏 looking for those early ganks towards the top side of the map.
One of my favorite things about this also, and something we didn't actually talk about very much in the very beginning of this game, is that 𝘀cie has this pocket Jax that he's been bringing out the entire, like my entire career inside of the VCS. I've heard about this from well before he even started as a pro, when he was in solo queue and he played the heck out of this champion. And here it is being picked into his Graves, which to me at least, that is a bold move from 𝘁𝗀cie. And also, 𝘀cie has to be like, okay, I'm picking Graves. If you pick Jax, I know how to play Jax better than you. He's like, I know the better half of both these matchups. And so it's far more important, I think, for the side of 𝘀𝗀cie to get up here and to help try to shift this matchup, since, at least on paper as well, 𝘀cie is supposed to be the better top laner. 𝘁𝗀cie is this young gun who is coming in, taking this counter matchup in the first game on this blue side into this top lane Graves, hoping to make something happen.
Well, so far it's so good from 𝘀cie, able to bully out 𝘁𝗀cie, has the level advantage and making sure to abuse that advantage for as long as is humanly possible, and pushing the Jax under his own tower. But now we're starting to see 𝘀𝗀cie making his way up to the top side of the map. He's actually completely ignored his blue buff.
Not entirely shocking. Going after the Qiyana to begin with, of course, the biggest thing is that she's going for the Predator and doesn't have boots yet, so you're basically missing your ultimate keystone. The other thing is having top and mid both as potentials to gank for.
Oh, here comes 𝘀𝗀cie! The ethereal chains connect. 𝘀𝗀cie might die, and indeed he will. It makes it a 1-for-1 trade, but crucially, first blood goes over to BTS.
I was going to say, one of the biggest things is that if you can break out mid lane, not only is it helping out because now LeBlanc can try to match some of the roaming pressure from Twisted Fate, but also Twisted Fate with lane control is just something you never want, because that means your rivers are kind of inaccessible and you're going to be able to move a lot faster than LeBlanc, because she takes a minute before that wave clear really starts to come online with the first few items. So I love the idea from 𝘀𝗀cie. Really unfortunate that the gold card comes through, able to get the kill, traded back for Blazes, but nonetheless, like you said, first blood goes over, of course, with that blue buff being, not taken. Now it's a question of, competing for it. Can 𝘀𝗀cie and the rest of BTS actually look to contest this blue buff? It looks like they're posturing, but I don't think they can.
Let's fight over blue buff, or let's just fight anyway. It's the VCS, the flash forward, the engage from 𝘁𝗀cie finds a 2-man stun. 𝘀𝗀cie forced to go over the wall, and now it's a 2v3. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, 𝘁𝗀ie able to pick up the kill onto Vince. I'm not quite sure what went on there, because all the summoners in the bot lane have been burnt from the side of BTS.
How in the world do we get an all-in? I guess you have a Tristana on one side, but like, how are you getting an all-in into a Rakan this early into the game to be able to actually find that kill come through? You've got the battle dance, you've got the Q. Not sure how that went about. I love that right there, 𝘀𝗀cie they showed. We talked about being able to come off the lane, being able to help out. Seems like more of a 𝘀𝗀cie thing, where Blazes and 𝘀𝗀cie are going to be more likely to do that kind of thing to help support the jungle. And right there, they were the first ones off the lane. Goodness gracious, there's action everywhere.
Yeah, 𝘁𝗀cie bullying out on 𝘀𝗀cie. Now, I do just want to quickly talk about the state of the game, because despite that first blood going over to 𝘀𝗀cie, despite them picking up the kill in the 2v2 matchup in the bottom lane, while all of this has been going on,
okay.
I was going to say, 𝘁𝗀queen was able to steal blue buff, and 𝘁𝗀queen was able to get both 𝘁𝗀crabs, and is now 13 CS up on 𝘀𝗀cie's talent.
Absolutely absurd. This is a fantastic start to the game from the side of 𝘁𝗀queen. We came out last split with our expectations that 𝘁𝗀queen was deserving of a top-level spot inside of the VCS. When we got into spring, we saw them in the promotion tournament, and then we saw Soren. Oh, actually, smurfing on the bottom side should be okay. Well, when we saw Soren come in, we were like, okay, this squad is legitimately powerful, and it's not 𝘁𝗀queen's fault that he's not starting. It's just that Soren was a top 4 jungler. There's nothing shocking about that. But 𝘁𝗀queen ended up outperforming him number of times, and definitely should have had the starting spot for the majority of the split. And I like that at the end they started to really give him the starting time, and I'm hoping that's what they've done for the entirety of the offseason, the entirety of the trading regime, was making sure that 𝘁𝗀queen was reacquainted with 𝘀𝗀cie, Blazes, and then their new bot lane here to make sure that everybody's comfortable, because this is somebody that definitely needs the support.
And here's a replay of what happened in the bot lane. So it's just,
goodness.
I mean, what? He couldn't even do anything about that. The amount of burst, the burst in the bottom lane was pretty ridiculous.
Incredible stuff. 𝘂𝗀𝗎𝗎 right there actually took that into his own hands pretty heavily. This is somebody that we didn't get to see much of for the last while, just because they've been out of the league for a fair amount of time, but has always been talked about as having quite a bit of potential. 𝘀𝗀 getting aggressed against by 𝘁𝗀, unfortunately. Look at his CS advantage that has come about. Again, the lane support from 𝘀𝗀 just is not there to help out the jungler, so he just has to tank all of this loss inside of his jungle, just try to scrap jungle camps away from 𝘁𝗀's 𝗀𝗃 just as much as possible. That early invade didn't pan out. That early kill definitely put him in a pretty rough position in this assassin versus assassin matchup.
Level 6 to level 4, and 𝘁𝗀 not allowing 𝘀𝗀 to get back into this game. Has the ultimate available. 𝘀𝗀 doesn't. 𝘀𝗀 trying to work out where to go, but the damage, the burst, the flash forward, 𝘁𝗀. He goes
𝘁𝗀
for the clone. 𝘁𝗀 jumping back in, and he might regret that one. However, it doesn't matter. 𝘁𝗀 out, and 𝘁𝗀 just about surviving. A little bit lucky with that one, may I add.
Yeah, able to get out of that situation, squeezing out just as little health as possible right there, making sure that 𝘁𝗀's ultimate wasn't as wasted. And here now, you can actually see 𝘀𝗀 shifting towards the bottom side of the map. This is where the power of his map really does lie, is in the bottom side, in this Tristana and Yuumi, who have already taken to an advantage.
Oh, this
𝘀𝗀's
could
on the bottom
end
side, no ultimate,
badly, as the deadly flourish will lock down 𝘁𝗀, and that is a Yuumi dead. 𝘀𝗀 is the next focus. The edge of 𝘁𝗀 locks him down. 𝘀𝗀 will be able... No, 𝘀𝗀 doesn't even get the 𝘁𝗶𝗃. It's a complete loss for the side of 𝘀𝗀.
I was hoping that that was going to come about, but again, it is 𝘀𝗀 who drafted lanes that are designed to move faster, and right there, 𝘁𝗀 is able to take advantage of it. It wasn't enough on that first blood coming out for the side of 𝘀𝗀, because 𝘁𝗀 didn't get anything, doesn't have the wave push to compete with the Twisted Fate, who's able to just jump wave as fast as possible to support. Turns it into a 4v3, and there's nowhere to go. 𝘂 and 𝘁𝗀 have had priority on bottom side, and they try to take advantage of that, but unfortunately, 𝘀𝗀 just finds himself in too much of a losing situation with lanes that are willing to support this 𝘁𝗀 just as fast as possible. 𝘀𝗀 clearly have their identity on lock as being a team that is going to support 𝘁𝗀 to the best of their abilities. I am curious also whether �𝗀 just greeted for the 𝘁𝗶𝗃 or if he knew he was going to die, because you have that stun on the 𝘁𝗀 Q. I wonder if he just ran directly out, if he might have been able to dodge out on it, but right there, probably just calculating, trying to see, ended up getting the losing side of the coin on that one.
Honestly, I don't even think I know if I want to blame �𝗀 for being willing to die just to be able to get a bit of extra CS, a bit of extra gold into his pocket. But we talked about the importance of this early game so far. 𝘀𝗀 out on top, nearly 1,000 gold ahead. And we also spoke about how 𝘁𝗀, super aggressive, wants all the resources for themselves. And they have that. 20 CS up over the wall. 𝘁𝗀 going to be able to land the ethereal chains as 𝘁𝗀 looking to potentially turn things around, but will just use the edge of 𝘁𝗀 and the canopy to walk on out to safety.
Nothing right there. Well, we're seeing a bit more support now from Ryuk and then also 𝘁𝗀 just to help out. There's not much you can do right there to stop that Rift Herald from coming in. So I like that decision from 𝘁𝗀, because it's okay, you gave up a third tower plate. You're already going to lose 2 minimum, if not 2.5 to 2 3/4, whatever it might have been. And it would have been hard to stop 𝘁𝗀s from just taking that anyway with the wave push if you ever were to find yourself in a realm. So I like that the support's there just to try to drive off 𝘁𝗀, get it bit back into the favor of 𝘀𝗀, who's running this Predator, has this kill on Talon. They're trying to get him involved in the game as much as possible. And hopefully, 𝘀𝗀, they're not down too much. 1.2k is rough at only, what is even less than 10 minutes into the game, but it's not completely out of their reach. It's just how do you handle 𝘁𝗀's 𝘁𝗀, which is so absurdly disgusting right now with how much farm it's been able to take in the early game.
I was going to say, maybe we'll see if Ryuk can handle 𝘁𝗀's 𝘁𝗀, but no. Ryuk can't either. 𝘁𝗀 going to be able to force Ryuk away from the lane. Just more CS, more XP being lost by the side of 𝘀𝗀. And well, 𝘀𝗀 is going to be able to get the first Drake of the game, but it is barely a silver lining for the BTS jungler.
It's just going to be a bit more lax of a game, I think, from the side of 𝘀𝗀. We talked about 𝘀𝗀 being kind of the early game weapon, wanting to be this attacking member for the side of 𝘀𝗀. Now that he's been taken off the board, not as far behind as he was actually earlier, he's still down about, about to a quarter or a half to a full clear of his jungle camps, being down 17 CS to the 𝘁𝗀 right now and being down the Yumu's to just the serrated dirt coming about before his next back comes through, but actually not down that 30-40 CS mark that we saw just seconds ago. But again, the Rift Herald being taken was huge, being able to attack lanes. This 𝘁𝗀 is just going to be more powerful. That early game action that we expected from 𝘀𝗀 isn't quite going to be there. So now you have this, the Jax lane isn't going poorly. You're down 14 CS, but you're okay. The Jax will scale, and it's going to be difficult for the Graves in the side lane as the lane goes on. The 𝘁𝗏 continues to get more powerful. Your bottom lane's doing very well, up 20 CS themselves. This is a solid position to be in.
Well, 𝘀rie not in a solid position. The collapse comes in. 𝘁𝗀𝗀 picks up their second kill of the game, and 𝘀aces with the best destiny I've ever seen in my life.
I think he popped it just for the vision on the LeBlanc in case she went invisible, which is what cost last time, what cost the kill onto 𝘁𝗀𝗀 when he threw the ultimate at the tower, ended up not getting the right LeBlanc and killing off the clone instead. And so right there, Blaze is not taking that chance, helping out his jungler a little bit. And this is going to be a repeating theme also from 𝘀Xury. It's just them getting aggressive by this 𝗀𝗏.
And the supreme display of talent not going to knock 𝘀𝗏 into the wall, which is what keeps him alive at the end of the day. But right now, it's just 𝘁𝗀𝗀 being able to do whatever they want. And actually, 𝘀aces walking away from the tower to allow 𝘁𝗁𝗀 to get all of the tower plate gold.
Also wanted the back timing as well. With no ultimate, with no teleport, has like the Unsealed Spellbook. Wanted the back timing to be able to match 𝘁𝗀𝗀, just so that 𝘁𝗀𝗀 is able to move freely, because he'll be back for this wave. So 𝘁𝗀𝗀 is going to be able to attack on this timer in the bottom side.
Deadly Flourish gets the lockdown, but here comes 𝘁𝗁𝗀, stolen away by 𝘁. There'll be some talks in the 𝘀Xury back room, I'm sure, afterwards. 𝘁𝗀𝗀 going to be able to jump onto 𝘀𝗏. Now 𝘁𝗀𝗀 joining into the fray. It's a 3v3. Deadly Flourish not actually going to be able to connect onto anyone. 𝘁𝗀𝗀 down to half HP, looking for 𝘁32. Super low distortion forward, but the Rakan will survive nonetheless. It has a lot of damage with that for the shot, but it is just onto the clone.
Isn't quite there is the damage coming out from the assassins from Burst the Sky. The combination of the LeBlanc and the talent, not quite enough. They are able to save 𝐿Lio, thankfully, and 𝘀aces is on his way down with the reinforcement from 𝘁𝗁𝗀, but I doubt they can make a dive forth without the ultimates readily available right here. So Burst the Sky combating, but 𝘀Xury, again, after that incredible early game, they are exploiting 𝘁𝗀𝗀's advantage to the maximum possible potential that they can right here, right now. Took down 𝘂𝗏, which was one of the very few parts of the map that was working there. Ryuk is not able to kind of convert on this matchup what should be a counter pick into the Graves quite yet, and that just means that 𝘀Xury jumps out quickly to a 3,000 gold advantage, and especially with tools like this 𝘁𝗀𝗏 in their back pocket, like this Jhin, alongside big team fighting tools. It's difficult if they want to start contesting objectives, especially second Rift Herald, third Dragon, things like that. 𝘀Xury should be in a pretty big advantage to try to take those fights.
And 𝘁𝗏 talked about this as well in the pre-game. He spoke about how this game would be decided by the jungle matchup, and so far this game has been determined, or at least the pace of the early game has been determined by this 𝘀𝗏 versus 𝘁𝗀𝗀 matchup. Top lane tower will fall the way of 𝘀Xury, the first tower of the game, and the collapse in the bottom lane. The rocket jump doesn't get over the wall because he is goal carded down. The buster shot will do diddly squat. 𝘀aces gets the kill onto 𝘂𝗏, and the second kill, I believe, went the way of 𝘁𝗀𝗀.
Picked the wrong angle to 𝘂𝗏 right there, unfortunately, on that rocket jump. Almost certainly would have got to safety. Felt like they had more than enough time to get out of that situation right there. Just kind of panicked, threw it over the wall, wrong spot, and wasn't able to get through one of the thicker parts. Wasn't quite standing on the wall either. I think, again, got a little bit jumpy right there with how quickly 𝘀aces is able to make that rotation. And how good is 𝘀Xury looking right now comparative to the previous split? We really hadn't seen too much of 𝘀aces being able to take advantage of lane priority like this. Oftentimes, we saw him on the Lucian, but here on the Twisted Fate has been all over this map. That is the jump from 𝘂𝗏. Again, he started it so far back in the river. He desperately needed to try to find a better angle or get closer to that rock if he wanted to try that, but wasn't going to be able to stop that. He could have waited for the gold card and tried to, buffer it with that Tristana rocket jump, trying that maneuver, but again, that would have been very risky as well.
Well, either way, 𝘀Xury 5,000 gold ahead. So let's flip the narrative a second, and let's talk about how Burst the Sky can get back into this game, because they do still have champions like the LeBlancs that have insane burst and pick potential.
They do, and that's what they can play off of, is trying their best, best as possible to try to generate some semblance of a pick. But it is so difficult now because you're sitting down 5,000 gold at only 15 minutes into the game. 𝘀Xury have a composition that they're okay team fighting with, especially into a team like Burst the Skies, which really isn't designed that well to go for your standard team fighting type, 5-on-5 situation. And so that means 𝘀Xury, they just get to throw their weight around when it comes to these neutral objectives. You saw them at the Dragon right there. When the Rift Herald comes up, they almost certainly are just going to walk at that, take that one off the board, and shut down more gold from the side of Burst the Sky. They're all on the top side of the map and easily could go snag that one anytime that they please. And so that means that the entirety of this early game goes to 𝘀Xury Sky. Can they wait things out? Can they try to generate something in terms of picks on side lanes and things of that sort? Maybe. But even that, you're still running the risk that the team fight is just going to be too powerful from the side of 𝘀Xury.
Well, right now, that Rift Herald has been started up by the side of 𝘀𝘀cie, and 𝘀𝘀 looking towards this bottom lane has got 𝘀𝑎𝑙𝑖O attached, and this would be a 3-man dive, but 𝘀𝑔𝐿�ry just farming up under their own tower. Rift Herald will be secured by the side of 𝘀𝘀cie momentarily, and there it goes, into the hands of a Killer Queen. Still got one outer tower remaining, which is in the mid lane. So, do you think 𝘀𝘀cie drop this one in the mid lane to secure that tower, or do they put it in a side lane, maybe to pick up an inner tower?
They did just take Dragon. Normally, I'm a pretty big fan of being able to use that as a dual functioning purpose, which is, okay, you can threaten a tower even if the plates aren't around, which usually Rift Herald 2 is never going to be able to actually have, versus, going for a Dragon or something like that. But since we have 3 minutes on the Drake, almost certainly that Rift Herald is not going to find its way to something significant as it pertains to specifically the Drake take. And so if that's the case, mid towers are going to get broken. To me, I actually want the Graves broken out far more than anybody else. And so I think top lane is the optimal place to put that down, just to make sure that the Jax is going to be pushed in as much as possible, and the Graves is going to be able to interact in 5-on-5 fights, where like the Jax is going to be much less valuable than the Graves is going to be, especially at this point in the game.
Right now, actually, for both top laners, neither of them have been involved in a kill, whether that is picking up a kill or dying themselves. But it looks like 𝘁𝑚𝑟 will be making their way to the bottom side of the map.
Surely.
We've had this discussion before.
And I'm right. You're wrong. It's surely.
Well, either way, I think Killer Queen is missing an ult. That much we know for certain. And a Herald of some nature has secured the bottom outer tower and will be getting a charge off onto the inner tower as well.
Well, easy enough to be able to shove in 𝘀𝑚𝑟, who is still, even at this point with the looting, just isn't able to match the wave clear that's going to come out from the side of 𝘀𝑎𝑐𝑒s. This whole composition from 𝘀𝘀cie is actually super cool, because they've taken what is like a super hard advantage from Qiyana, and then you also have this pushing power from 𝘀𝑎𝑐𝑒s, and they've just used it to attack their side lanes and transition this to a team fighting composition, which is what they needed to do. They understood what their composition was designed to do. They made it work from minute one. It has been incredible. You can even see Killer Queen has sacrificed so much farm. He's down 13 to 𝘀𝘀 right now. At one point, this is a 30-40 farm advantage, and they could have kept playing on that and been fine with it. But Killer Queen has just said, no, I'm going to gank, I'm going to gank, I'm going to gank, and now they've got 5,000 gold. Now they've got a dragon in their back pocket. They've got a ton of towers. 𝘀𝑚𝑟 has to force the cleanse. I mean, it's just easy enough for 𝘀𝘀cie to put 3, 4, 5 members on any part of the map and say, this is our territory now, you're not allowed to be there, and if you are, you're just going to get shoved out, you're going to get killed.
And now that it is their territory, Killer Queen can say, 𝘀𝘀, your jungle is no longer your jungle. You don't have jungle. It's all my jungle, and guess what? I'm not a nice landlord. I'm not going to let you have any of it.
They are comfortable. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say something else. I wanted to bring up is you know the phrase, the age-old sage, quality, not quantity, right?
I don't think that specifically is an adage, but I understand what you're trying to go for, so keep going.
Okay, so I feel like 𝘀𝑚𝑟 is on the wrong side of that. He's gone with the cooldown boots. He's going for quantity, but I feel like with LeBlanc, it's more of a quality champion, more of the single target burst.
Are you saying you would rather see what is the burst to come out from Sorc boots? Okay.
Yes.
I raise you the challenge of, okay, if you really wanted to get aggressive in the laning phase and try to attack against the Twisted Fate in the very early game, if you go Merc Treads, you're doubling down on both Magic Resist and Tenacity to be able to deny that stun card from just ruining you, right?
See,
the
I
Merc
like
Tread
that
probably should have been the option.
See, no, but I like that because that's still on the quality side, because you're reducing the quality of 𝘀𝑎𝑐𝑒's engages. So, yes.
This is true. There is possible. That is a possibility. I assume what the thought process is here is like, okay, if you need cooldown reduction, you're actually going for what looks like it's going to be Cosmic Drive as well. So you're just going for as many abilities as humanly possible to put in. And LeBlanc is a champion that scales extremely well when you're able to put in more abilities. Specifically, the sigils are so much of the damage and the ability to proc those marks. So the more sigils you can throw out, the more ultimates you can throw out, the better the champion is. But I agree, there are probably better ways, especially if you're going to double dip into Lucidity Boots and Cosmic Drive. That's just unnecessary. At this point, you should have a different pair of boots. You should be going Cosmic Drive, probably third item instead of second item, especially with the way this game is going. Are you really going to make use of that extra abilities inside of the fight. It feels like LeBlanc never really going to be able to access those stats effectively, and definitely not have the damage to be able to make use of them, because you still need AP, you still like Void Staff, things like that, just to rip through some of the basic penetrations that are coming, or some of the basic resistances that'll come through from the side of 𝘀𝗀cie.
And Blazes does have that Merc Tread. Now, the second Drake of the game, or at least the second Drake for 𝘀𝗀cie, has been secured. It is a mountain. We are on a mountain rift. And, well, when you're playing against a LeBlanc, a Talon, that burst, that Mountain Soul Shield will be exceptionally useful for 𝘀𝗀cie.
Ooh, going after Glory.
Oh, I think Glory might...
No, they're not. Yep,
They
no,
use two ultimates.
It doesn't matter. Who cares? What are they going to do? Exploit the fact that Twisted Fate ultimate is down? It just does not matter at this point. Their map is theirs, and now 𝘀𝗀cie can continue to expand this into further straits. You talk about Mountain Soul being super effective at denying the assassins. I don't think we're going to get to Mountain Soul. I honestly think that 𝘀𝗀cie are going to be able to close this out fast enough as well. If a Baron fight were to come about at the 20-minute mark or something like that, the one mark, I guess, is that 𝘀𝗀cie's Baron take isn't particularly the fastest, but doesn't matter.
Well, the final chapter will come through. It's going to lock down onto Blazes. Buster Shot picks up the kill as 𝘂𝗀 teleports his way in, looking on 𝘁𝗀, but he takes so much damage with a shotgun to the face instantly. drakthar still on the hunt as 4 members from 𝘀𝗀cie back away. But I just want to kind of complete these sentences by saying, yesterday we saw some absolute stomps, but okay, burst the sky. Okay, they've got to go for a risky play, right? They've got to find some way back into the game. Surely this is the coin flip that you'd want to go for.
Glory
just going to look for Killer Queen. Not going to be able to find the pick. They're going to be able to burn the grand entrance from 𝘁𝗀32. Remember, Blaze is still dead. Has a teleport available, but crucially for 𝘀𝗀cie, they deny the Baron.
This is the idea, like you said, they need to find a way back into the game. This would have been a huge way to get back into the game had they not just burnt drakthar's ultimate. I think if they had, Aomini ultimate, if they had Yuumi ultimate, if they had drakthar ultimate, they're doing good inside of this game, and they can turn off of that Baron and potentially run the 5v4. There's so much that 𝘀𝗀cie have to be careful of if you're stepping into last chapter, if you're stepping into what is the ultimate from Talon. It's very risky for you to put your team into a situation like that. But because those were burnt, 𝘀𝗀cie does not care. They're so far ahead in gold. 4 members is going to be enough. And like you said, with TP from Blazes, this ever wasn't really a threat. I honestly think, Burst the Sky, their best bet there was that maybe 𝘀𝗀cie would have been like, nah, there's no way they think they can Baron at this point. And because they've got the Tristana, which is so much better of a Baron taker than something like the Jhin, that they would have gotten away with it scot-free and maybe turned this game on its head a little bit. But thankfully, 𝘀𝗀cie, they're not even going to give them that chance, because they are just taking control of this top side as much as possible. They want to be the ones that make this Baron call.
By the way, if you are a Burst the Sky fan, maybe you are starting to get a little bit more hope following that pick that we saw in the top lane. But what I was trying to say before was, yesterday we saw 2 absolute stomps. This game has felt like the cleanest game that we've had so far this split, and I know that's not saying a lot since we've only had 2 games or 2 series so far, but I still think this is a very impressive performance from 𝘀𝗀cie, who I don't feel have made any really substantial mistakes this game.
This is, I agree with you. This is one of the cleanest games we've actually seen so far. And it's not like the most dominating win. We're at 25 minutes and we're probably still well outside the realm of just a kill shot coming out from the side of 𝘀𝗀cie so far, especially since there's still gold being poured back in. That pick, that tower that just went down, even if it's traded off for mid to inner tower, you're still taking as much as you can here for the side of Burst the Sky. This is also my opportunity to drop the fact that we had an entire summer split that went about in every single league. Do you know who currently tops all summer plus VCS winter KDAs? It's 𝘀𝗀gy with 34. After yesterday's games, currently sits across everybody topping that chart as Baron gets started here from the side of 𝘀𝗀cie Esports.
And the Baron's already down to 5,000 HP. We can praise 𝘀𝗀gy's stats in just a short bit. Will 𝘀𝗀cie secure this? They will.
I'll hold you to that.
Indeed. And now the Destiny has been dropped. Who is finding the pick? Who is trapped in with who? The Yuumi locked down. The Yuumi taken down. And dearie me, both bottom laners for Burst the Sky will fall. 𝘀𝗀cie get the Baron, and they get 2 kills as well.
This is so hard of a composition to try to execute on. And by the way, when I said it just seconds ago that there's no kill shot to come through, 𝘀WWE just found one. We might actually end this game before what is, I'm not going to say the 26-minute mark because that might just be the perfect timing, but definitely this was enough damage probably to just give the win over to the side of 𝘀WWE, barring just a massive throw. As it's 𝘀𝘀cie, who, again, they have to play into this 5v5 strategy, into these neutral objectives. That's just not the way that this game was designed to be played from them. That early game was so much, and after that blue buff, after that immediate kill, it feels like there was just no way to recover at all on the side of 𝘀𝘀cie, unfortunately, because 𝘁𝗀𝗰𝗀 just got off a way too good of a start.
And we talk about us casters, not overly hyping the comeback potential. And it doesn't feel like in this game there is much comeback potential for 𝘀𝘀cie. It does feel like we're talking about a 10k goal lead pretty much now. 𝘀𝘀WWE have to make a massive mistake. They have to get cleanly aced, and even then they're probably still in control of the game.
It's going to be really hard to throw this game if you're 𝘀𝘀WWE. That situation, I just wanted to point out that the attempted swap onto 𝘀𝘀thar is actually what cost 𝘀𝐿EO his life, because when he gets gold carded, even if it did no damage, it would have stuck him outside of the body of 𝘀𝐿𝐴𝑚, would have made it too easy to make this happen. We saw that solo kill happen early on in the game from the side of 𝘀𝘀cie, and we've seen a couple of instances of these assassins being effective, but Glory has felt way too slow inside of this game. 𝘀𝘀thar has tried. That was disgusting amount of damage from the likes of 𝘁𝗀𝗰𝗀, and this just might be enough. I mean, they still have Baron. They've got bot lane pushing. You've got Graves actually kind of waiting to proxy off members from their own base. He's gonna stand in their face and not let Tristana actually come back. This is disastrous. This might just be the end of the game right here.
I think it is the end of the game, and 𝘁𝐿EO all by themselves is just a poor kitty cat. A kitty cat murdered down. 2 members remain for 𝘀𝘀cie. And you can drop down the ultimate 𝘀𝘀thar, but you can only run with your tail between your legs. You didn't even realize you had a tail until that moment, probably. And now Ryuk, I don't know what he's going for. He's going for some god tier play. Maybe he can make something happen. I doubt it. He's gold carded down. He's knocked up. He's taken down. And for 𝘀𝘀WWE Esports, it is a cleanly dominant display from them in this first game against 𝘀𝘀cie. Coated and Blazes will just zone the remaining members of BTS in their own Nexus, and Coated playing with fire. But 𝘀𝘀WWE secure the win.
A moment of high expectation for players like Glory, like 𝘀𝘀thar, even 𝘁𝐿EO in this particular case, Ryuk's development, all those questions answered with a stumble right out of the gate for the side of 𝘀𝘀cie once again. Really tragic that is the way they're going to kick off this split against 𝘀𝘀WWE, who is, again, another one of these teams at the bottom of the split last split. 𝘀𝘀WWE looking incredibly clean, pretty much top to bottom. I loved their transition into mid-game and late game so quickly. Once 𝘁𝗀𝗰𝗀 had an adequate amount of gold on that Qiyana, they basically just ran the map. They said, okay, we're going to take this gold advantage. If you want to try to catch up, you can do that, but you're going to do that in our stead as we take every single neutral objective and all the outer towers off the map. And by that point, you're never going to be able to catch up, and that's exactly what just happened.
And on that note, we're going to be jumping on into a short break. When we return, we will be breaking down Game 1 with our analyst, 𝘀𝘀𝑚𝑏𝑖𝑛𝑜gi, and looking ahead to Game 2. Stay tuned. Welcome back, folks, as we are getting ready to jump on into our second game of the first series of the day. 𝘀𝘀cie Esports taking on 𝘀𝘀WWE Esports. Now, 𝘀𝘀𝑚𝑏𝑖𝑛𝑜gi, you have returned to join us from the heavens above, or actually, I don't know what that background is. It's too far away from me to be able to see. It's 𝘀𝘀. You have returned to the depths of Zorn from the heights of 𝘀𝘀tober to talk about what has been, in my opinion, the best game of the week so far. What did you make of 𝘀𝘀WWE?
𝘀𝘀WWE looked way better than they did last split. Let's just get that out of the way. I was really impressed with how they played around 𝘁𝗀𝗰𝗀, and 𝘁𝗀𝗰𝗀 taking that massive individual advantage and then just giving it to the rest of his team, especially mid and bot lane, just going from lane to objective and not really giving up a lot of farm, in the sense that 𝘀𝘀thar was just able to catch up a lot of the CS deficit, but it didn't matter because by the time he caught up, 𝘀𝘀thar was 3-0-3. They had multiple dragons. They'd had their Rift Heralds go down and had spread gold around the rest of the team. So, sure, 𝘀𝘀thar caught up, but 𝘀𝘀WWE was just so far ahead from pretty much minute 1. And please, cat, stop.
Well, I think the cats have come out to play. The 𝘀𝗎𝗋 certainly didn't really get to play the game, Rebel. We saw that catch onto 𝘀𝗋cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 towards the end of the game. But for BTS, if they could improve on one thing heading into game 2, what would that be ideally for you?
Out of fairness, I think that the stumble out of the gate is not something that's going to be replicated super easily. Where it's like, okay, 𝘀𝗀 ganked mid lane, found a kill, got stuck under tower, didn't take his blue buff, ended up getting punished because Killer Queen read it. They had shoving lanes. The exact like, there's so much that compounded all into one really big situation for Killer Queen that it feels like that would not happen if they played the same game 10 times in a row. The draft was really not my favorite, just because it felt like it was like, if this were EDG playing against the side of 𝘀𝗀rie, I'd be like, all right, yeah, they're gonna win. Like, that's fine. But this is 𝘀𝗀.
I mean, you could give many drafts to EDG and they'd probably win. They are, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but they are the world champions, Rebel.
I didn't know that. No, I don't watch League of Legends. Not VCS. Nothing but VCS. So I've been completely in the dark for 6 months. But
no, it's okay. VCS barely qualifies as League of Legends.
That's fair. The biggest thing is I want to see them fix their draft, and I want to see them give themselves a much more clear win condition. Just because when you have a comp like that, yeah, I'm just going to take this into my growth conversation. When I walked into this, I was like, okay, what growth are we going to see from 𝘀𝗀 versus 𝘀𝗀rie? It seems like 𝘀𝗀 are the exact same team we saw in the previous split. They didn't make any actual changes. Ryuk didn't look... I guess he didn't die. That's the best I can say about Ryuk during the course of that game. 𝘀𝗀r was still 𝘀𝗀r. 𝘀𝗀ry was still 𝘀𝗀ry. 𝘂𝗀𝗋i had a cool solo kill, but outside of that, he and 𝘁𝐿IO were just not particularly good. 𝘀𝗀rie, I mean, I don't think that 𝑉IT and H3 had that particularly good of a game, but coded Killer Queen and Blazes looked like a completely revitalized set of players, which is exactly what we wanted to see. The growth from 𝘀𝗀rie has clearly been there. So it's up to 𝘀𝗀 to be like, okay, what did you do in the offseason? How did you change?
Yeah,
And
I think
𝘀𝗀sky,
sorry, I think 𝘀𝗀sky can sort of write that game off because it did sort of go disastrously from the word go. So I think they can just sort of reassess, maybe fix your ban phase. Don't give over quite the same level of OPs. Don't give over like the Twisted Fate and the Graves straight away. Lean into the strengths of 𝘂𝗋𝗋 being a lane dominant player. Try and play heavily to the bot side.
and we'll see whether that bot side play does come through from 𝘀𝗀r. But just to go back towards the 𝘀𝗀rie for a moment, Rebel. Again, you talked about how coded Killer Queen Blazes, they look like different revitalized players. Coming into this series, I think all three of us predicted a 2-1 win for 𝘀𝗀rie. So starting with you, Rebel, do you still think it's going to be 2-1, or do you think this is going to be a 2-0?
Again, I think that's really difficult to tell, just because 𝘀𝗀rie, they came out with a massive advantage in the beginning of the game. I will say this: this was a very clean-looking game from the side of 𝘀𝗀rie, which concerns me only because that means that they weren't able to just play however they wanted and close out the game. They were legitimately concerned with the prospect of 𝘀𝗀sky at some point turning this game. Despite having a superior team fighting composition, a massive early advantage, they were still crossing every I, or yeah, crossing every T and dotting every I. My apologies, I almost switched those. So that is cause for concern only if that's because they're playing 𝘀𝗀sky, who is the worst team, and they happen to be the 7th best team. And it was like, okay, they took their advantage, they transformed it, and they did everything that was absolutely necessary to win that game. And that's why they won the game, instead of being like, okay, we're not confident in our own ability to be able to play. I doubt that's a long shot analysis. I think 𝘀𝗀rie, if they continue the way they did, this is going to be an easy 2-0. But there's at least that thought is in the back of my head of, okay, why did this game have to end in such a clean manner for 𝘀𝗀rie? Why did they have to do everything absolutely right the entire time?
I think you can
with that, oh, sorry,
at
I was
it
just going to
from
say,
a-
we are jumping into picks and bans, but Marby, give your quick thoughts on 𝘀𝗀rie's.
Yeah, I think you could look at it as you don't want to. You're just starting a split. You want to make sure you're not falling into bad habits early. So you just play it clean, play by the book, and just make sure you don't. Sure, you had a really easy free early game, but you don't want to just sort of mess around and then when you get up against a better team, you've gotten to the idea, oh, we're really far ahead, we can just mess around, and then you lose to 𝘀𝗀, or that you could have taken that lifts you up over the people around you. But
And with that, we are jumping on into picks and bans. The draft is relatively similar so far, with the exception of 𝘀𝗀sky taking away their Graves and actually taking away their own 𝘀𝗎 Rebel.
that they are. As well as, they actually go to 𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀 for the first time that we've seen inside of VCS. We expected that yesterday, but didn't end up actually grabbing that one away. And the important thing, actually, since we found out now that we are on 11-2-1, the 𝘀𝗀𝗀, if that happened to be yesterday and they just didn't change the graphic for some reason, it makes so much more sense why we're seeing 𝘀𝗀𝗀, because he did get some buffs over the course of 11-20. And the other thing is there's no Nidalee ban, which happened in the first set and in also yesterday. It happened quite a bit. This was the response to Nidalee that happened yesterday, and they left it up, expecting maybe for 𝘀𝗀𝗀 to go to the Nidalee rather than anything else, given that it's one of his more popular champions. So maybe they were like guessing, they were saying, okay, we're going to take 𝘀𝗀𝗀 here, go ahead and try to take Nidalee, or you have to pick something else that maybe you're less comfortable on.
And 𝘀𝗶𝗹, we talked about spicy picks. We've got the Rise coming in for 𝘀𝗀𝗀. We've got the 𝘀𝗀𝗀 in for 𝘀𝗀𝗀. How excited are you for these two champs?
Look, Rise, I mean, I'm not excited because we've seen a lot of it. It's a very stable champ that just sort of, it's got good wave clear. It scales pretty well into a strong side laner, and has a decent impact in team fights. You can sort of look to make those sort of similar roam plays as the Twisted Fate. Then on the other side, you have 𝘀𝗀𝗀, which is garbage. Yeah, sure, he got buffed, and yesterday when we saw him, he was running Phase Rush instead of maybe going for the Predator, which is the big thing on the patches post Worlds, but it's not good. It's not good.
I think that was the best sound effect I've ever heard from 𝘀𝗀𝗶.
You should during the offseason, actually, he made this incredible, it was like the most cartoon-esque, scrumptious noise you've ever seen, because he found a spider in his house. It was kind of insane. He messaged me specifically.
I don't know where.
Get back. He never left.
I think we need to move away from this because PTSD is starting to be triggered in for 𝘀𝗀𝗀. But Rebel, to you, because you are the big 𝘀𝗀𝗀 fan. 𝘀𝗀𝗀 played Talon. He fell flat in game 1. Now 𝘀𝗀𝗀 is saying, yo 𝘀𝗀𝗀, here's how you play Talon.
Mayhaps. That is what 𝘀𝗀𝗀 is saying, which is I can understand that if you're on the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗀, because he did kind of flex pretty hard on 𝘀𝗀𝗀 in that previous game. On the other hand, though, you are now playing this into an 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, which is a little bit more difficult to try to just full engage into, because if you're Talon and you press ultimate and you come in with a Q, you probably don't kill 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 outright on your first rotation, and then he stuns you, and then you're a Talon who just got stunned in front of an 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, and it's like, is that really what you wanted to do, buddy? I'm not sure that's the play here. So maybe this pick is just comfort from the spring because it's been a while, but nonetheless, it seems like our VCS jugglers are fine going back to this again and again. More importantly, 𝘀𝗀𝗀 picks about, not only do we get a second 𝘀𝗀 of the split, 𝘀𝗀𝗀 pops up in the bottom lane.
𝘀𝗀𝗀 has popped up in the bottom lane, but I do want to touch on this 𝘀𝗀 first, 𝘀𝗀𝗀. We saw the Fiora being hovered, it got switched to the 𝘀𝗀. Which do you prefer, and how does this 𝘀𝗀-Camille matchup go?
𝘀𝗀𝗀, don't let him bully you. If you want to talk about 𝘀𝗀𝗀, talk about 𝘀𝗀𝗀.
You can talk about both.
I mean, alright, the sure thing on 𝘀𝗀𝗀 is he's really great because he can actually get into he can actually put an engage down without Thresh getting in the way. As for 𝘀𝗀 versus Fiora, I think Fiora would have been the better pick because Fiora is just generally all around a better champion at the moment. 𝘀𝗀, yeah, look, I would have much preferred something that, I honestly even would have preferred, going for something a little bit less meta, but something that would actually help shore up the fact that BTS, their best engage tool is an 𝘀𝗀𝗻𝗀𝗻 ultimate with Purple Gun. That's really rough. So again, they're gonna be looking to try and get individual lane advantage and then go from there. I mean, they're okay if 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 comes into them, but yeah, so great.
Now, I just want to touch on something because I'm just quickly checking up the stats, and I might be completely wrong, but I think this is the first 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 game that we've had in the VCS this year.
Probably.
That wouldn't shock me, no.
Also, I'll just throw my prediction. 𝘀𝗀𝗀's got this game.
Okay. Well, there we go. 𝘀𝗀𝗀 to take the game. 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, thank you very much, and we will be seeing you after this game. Rebel, do you think this is a win for 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀?
I think, once again, that 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 have gotten themselves into a situation where their composition is not boding particularly well. They have, at minimum, given themselves better team fighting tools, which is nice. I feel like this composition for the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is all about just, letting Ryuk go, 1v5 mode. as much as possible, because it's like, okay, you pick it into Jin, yeah, we're not going to talk about what just happened. It was a little bit of air slapping back and forth. But again, it feels like a composition that's like Gwen does really well into the majority of these champions because that W just denies so much of the long range engage. But outside of that, like, who's your ball delivery for your Orianna? Like Bobby had just actually said that, like, okay, when purple gun is your best option for engage from a range, this doesn't feel particularly good. So Burst the Sky, once again, it feels like their composition just falls flat a little bit.
And I think 𝗀𝗃 running at people and slapping them is a nice engage mechanism. Oh, Blazes, what was that sidestep? Absolutely smurfing.
Blazes was mechanically gifted last split. I don't know what it was about, like, stepping into the VCS for the first time. When I saw Blazes in the promotion tournament, I was super excited about it. He was like, he took Lucian and was just like smurfing on everyone in the promotion tournament on the Lucian when they just like went completely undefeated. He and Sorn, I thought, were going to be like the next big jungle duo, and then they just completely fell flat, and Blazes didn't look particularly good. I'm glad to see, at least during this game, up against the side of 𝘀rie, who again has had one of these more consistent mid laners been inside of the VCS, that Blazes is showing quite a bit of ability, and now on his rise, which is something that he played quite a bit in the past, hopefully able to show us quite a bit more about what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I was very excited actually to see this Rise picked up by Blaze, and I brought it up in picks and bans, is because Rise is actually Blaze's most played champion, but he didn't get a single opportunity to play Rise in the spring split. So this is his first competitive Rise game of the year, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm excited to see what he can pull off.
Yeah, actually, when they let multiple, they had like this opening in the Chinese super server for Rise players specifically, and Blazes was number 3 after my account and Faker's account, which was pretty insane to think that's how good he is at the Rise the champion. But yeah, I mean, I think he saw it back in VCSB when he was competing on some of the teams back then. I got a chance to see, I think, one game, and I just didn't even have to watch after 15 minutes because he was already at X number of kills. I can't even remember how many it was, but he is a very good Rise player. His mechanics will show heavily during the course of this game. I will say this is an opportunity for 𝗀𝗃 with this Predator. How about that, Mobby? Mobby was complaining yesterday about the phase rush. We got the Predator for the 𝘀ie here today to potentially put some punishment into the Rise, as he doesn't have a great escape mechanic against the likes of this 𝘀ie.
And I'll also give some compliments to 𝘀𝗃, because he had a decent game on Jax into the grave. Sure, he didn't win the matchup as maybe he should have, as 𝗀𝗃, he just wants to get a 𝘁𝗃, doesn't let him get some XP. Yeah, 𝘀rie making their way up, and now it's going to be a 3v2. Blazes forced to run, and now 𝗀𝗃, you know what, I guarantee you right now he's got a big smile on his face. He can finally get a 𝘁𝗃. It's all happy and dandy for him.
Oh, goodness. Okay, Blazes is here as well. You gotta figure out a way through this.
Going, that's so much damage! And Blazes gets the first blood on his comfort champion. 𝘀𝗃 teleporting in, but so is 𝘀ie. And guess what? 𝘀ie has a gap closer in the form of the hookshot. 𝘀𝗃 is not going to be able to chase. And meanwhile, 𝘀ie will just waltz their way back up to the top lane.
And I know where his brain went immediately right there. 𝗀𝗃 was like, okay, we just won the top side. Bottom side, our Aphelios and Thresh are pushing into this Jhin 𝘁𝗀. We have the level advantage. We will be able to shift into bottom side and take double scuttle away, and it is me who's going to get the strike. And actually, you're seeing that come to fruition now, but they were trying to do that earlier. Blazes threw that into his own hands by using this flash root on top of that, on top of the rune that had already been stacked to get that root up and to be able to actually apply that pressure and give himself that kill into the player. Now, the problem is 𝘀ie, I think, should have helped shift into mid lane, cover that mid wave, take a few of those minions, then walk back up to top so they didn't lose that. And as
𝗀𝗃, he's just flashing over the wall. 𝘀𝗀 doesn't get the kill. I thought the auto attack was, but it's going to be the burn coming in from the red buff. Okay, 𝗀𝗃's here to play.
Yes, he is. This is probably last split, this was the best champion he had at his pool. Graves was the other one, but Graves wasn't as high meta in the previous split that we had seen. But 𝘀ie, when it was meta, this was just the best champion he had at his pool. He was a pretty good 𝘀ie player, and so it's not shocking that he defaults back to something like this, because it was comfortable for him inside of the spring, and I'm glad to see the effect very, very early on. Both got the double scuttle, ended up with the play into the mid lane, punishing the flashless Blaze in the mid lane as well. Good stuff from 𝗀𝗃, reading the map, being this aggressive tool. Hopefully he is able to be this early game engine for the side of Burst the Sky.
So you call yourself a 𝗀𝗃 fan, you know he's good on the 𝘀ie, but yet you wanted him to play the Talon. I'm sensing a mix of interests here.
Listen, I think he's amazing, right, at Udyr. But, like, his namesake is not Bear Stance. His namesake is not Chemtank. It's Drakthar. Because he is an assassin player and an AD jungler at heart. His Graves is his best champion far and away. Whenever you ask me, if you were to ask me, okay, what do you want Drakthar to play? Graves. The answer is always Graves, because he is an amazing Graves player. And he was actually the pinch hitting Graves player back when he was on Percent Esports that we talked about just a bit ago, when he was the replacement jungler for, I can't even remember, he's out of the league by this point. But whenever they needed a Graves player, this was who they brought in because he was just so good at the champion.
Okay, Glory is now level 6, and Blaze is not. Meanwhile, we've got a gank on the top side of the map. The Hextech ultimatum. 𝘁𝗃 gets the kill on to Ryuk. And, well, we saw 𝘁cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀 just there for a little bit of assistance. Drakthar going to start up on the Infernal, but he steps on to the trap, and that will give away a bit of vision and a bit of information over to 𝘀UE.
See, but I like this. This is 𝘀𝘀_𝘀𝗀𝗃 who's able to actually have some counterplay across the map. You've got top lane where it's, all right, you have this, on the side of 𝘀UE at least, you're getting 𝘁𝗁 to top side because you can get 𝘁𝗃 going, and you can try to shut down Ryuk, who again is on this champion that should have decent effects when we get to the team fighting phase. This is red by the side of 𝘀𝘀_𝘀𝗀𝗃, and it is Drakthar playing into his bottom lane, who surprisingly have had a pretty decent set of laning phases now against the side of 𝘀UE Esports' bot lane as well. And so they're playing into this dragon mechanic and punishing with camps. This is Drakthar reading the map effectively. This wasn't the stumble out of the gate that led to a 15-20 CS deficit. This is the play that was intended to actually come with a punish.
Drakthar punished, exactly as he said, punished for trying to steal away the red buff. Great communication from 𝘀UE to be aware of what Drakthar was doing, and then H32 getting the vision and jumping in.
And right there, it's, okay, there's like cookies at the bottom of the cookie jar, and you're able to reach for one, which is the dragon, and Drakthar just like, he puts his whole arm into the jar, just looking for this red buff at the bottom, and unfortunately is going to get punished for it, as that was the response play from 𝘁𝗁 after the top lane play.
Blazes might die in the realm warp. Glory popping off, getting the solo kill on against Blaze's favorite champion, against Blaze's comfort pick, and Drakthar just got to run at H32. The flash forward, the flay, the death sentence. H32 will fall. 𝘁𝗁 picks up the kill on the Aphelios.
And that's what we've been waiting for here, is this is 𝘀𝘀_𝘀𝗀𝗃 taking shots back at 𝘀UE. Glory stepping up, living to the name, hopefully now showing what he's capable of being inside of this mid lane, now up a fairly significant amount of CS over top of Blazes, who had to burn that early flash for the play, and has now been punished for that fact 2 times within the laning phase. And you see that Drakthar off the rebound, the same way that 𝘁𝗁 had run directly at him to his red buff, he ran directly to punish onto the bottom side of the map. This is another look at that one-on-one situation where Blazes, I think, just gets caught out by a shockwave right here. Yeah, really unfortunate. Then tries to use the realm warp to escape. I mean, you're going to do that pretty much no matter what, but those enhanced auto attacks, super difficult to deal with for the side of Orianna. This has still been a game that 𝘁𝗁 has been able to dictate the pace of, but at minimum this time, Drakthar is actually finding a fair amount of counterplay, especially in this bottom.
Wow, so good. Or I should say a good comeback from 𝘀𝘀_𝘀𝗀𝗃. Elio, does he go for the death sentence? Oh, that's damage! Is it enough? No, not quite. The heal. Just keeping Vit alive.
Man, but 𝘁𝗁 and Elio, this bottom lane has been so good. Yeah, last game, he got that solo bolo in the bottom side. I guess it's not a solo bolo, it's like it's a duo kill to actually come about, all things through considered. But almost another one. I'm not gonna say those words. Don't say those words to me on broadcast again. But this has been actually a strong point. I was not expecting either bot lane to come out with an advantage like this.
Okay, a hookshot coming in. However, Drakthar is on his way, but Ryuk's going to be dead by the time that Drakthar arrives. And now Drakthar is in the fire, quite literally. But look at the damage he's putting out. 𝘁𝗁 flashes forward, picks up the kill, and gets revenge for his top laner.
All right, that is a bingo square on the Drakthar fan club, bingo. So make sure everybody mark that off. It's the top left corner. You got the free space. We're almost there. We just need him to actually build that item in order to get a legitimate bingo. But again, nice response from Drakthar, covering his top laner. He's able to get there. The kill comes out a little bit too fast because, again, 𝘁𝗁's on this lethality. You got this good burst damage coming out from the Camille, but the responses have been there. So 𝘀𝘀_𝘀𝗀𝗃, they're not going to walk away from this series without fighting up against the side of 𝘀UE. They found their strike back, second in a row onto Blazes. This one's not actually going to accomplish anything.
No, Elio not quite in range to be able to follow up with a death sentence. It was a max range shockwave, and here's a replay of what happened in the top lane.
is. And again, it's 𝘀𝗀 is here. He's got the Predator. He was in that mid brush and I think was walking away during that process and then stepped back in afterwards. And thankfully was able to use that flash to get a trade kill on Decoded after 𝘀cie_𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 had burnt everything. So a good situation. Again, salvaging at least the kind of the worst of the all worlds. Ryuk is showing his previous split form, if we want to call it, inting Ryuk, whatever you want to call it, because this was the way he was playing in the previous splits, not looking to have advanced too much. At least he's doing it with confidence now because he's picking all these very aggressive solo carry type champions.
I mean, in fairness to Ryuk, last split, he had minus 19 CS at 15 minutes. I'm checking the CS now. He's 9 CS up, so that's definitely improvement. So I'll give a thumbs up to Ryuk on that one.
I agree with you 100%. That 9 CS advantage he's got in exchange for 2 kills is definitely worthwhile in the grand scheme of things, I think. Especially when you're competing against a Camille who's going to be able to use that side lane advantage to snowball towers. I think this is a great situation for the
Look, I'm not saying it's fantastic. I'm saying it's better than Spring Split. As here comes 𝘀cie_𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 into the bottom lane. He needs to work out who he wants to go on. In the end, he's just going to have to run out completely. 𝘀𝗀's just a question mark. I have no mana. And then, I don't know, magically gets mana from somewhere.
You want to know what's crazy? You want to hear a really cool stat about last split versus this split? So 𝘀𝗀cie esports is actually completely undefeated. They were one of our bottom 2 teams last split. They're undefeated this split. Insane. Absolutely insane turnaround from the likes of this team.
It's incredible. And
really
that's
is.
not even based off 0 games. They played a game as well.
Yeah, they have a 100% win rate right now. They're going insane right now. Crazy.
Honestly, 𝘀 should be quaking in their boots at the prospect of it.
𝘀 has not won a single game yet, so I'm just saying.
True. I mean, at the moment, it's who's it? It's oh my god, how am I forgetting their name? It's Buffalo, yeah, at the top. So it's an interesting split so far. Lantern has been dropped. Death Sentence going to go wide. The Flay only going to hit one member. The box has been dropped down. Teleport coming in, coated onto 𝘀𝐿IO, and the �realm_Warper will be a drop down as they look for glory. Will be a slow from one of the traps. 𝘀cie_𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 over the wall, slowed by the orb. 𝘀cie_𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 on the run. The Predator is kind of disgusting, but not quite enough damage. Hookshot forward coated. I don't think you want to go for that one, son, even if Glory has no mana. Meanwhile, on the top side of the map, 𝘀𝗀sky, they're just pouring lots of gold into Aomine.
They're doing as best as possible to try to keep their team fighting sources with gold in their pockets. Glory's gotten it, Aomine's gotten it, and that's their kind of salvage for the later game. Mostly because I think we've seen a number of times 𝘀𝗀cie esports is just better at taking multi-man fights, and that's something that's going to want to be avoided from the side of 𝘀𝗀sky as much as possible. Every single time you're seeing 3+ man engagements between these two teams, it is oftentimes 𝘀𝗀cie. Now, they've also had the gold advantage most of the time, but I've gotten the sense that that team fighting is also just there from 𝘀𝗀cie. This team mostly staying the same from the previous split. Not shocking that they've got players also with competitive experience. Coded's got more than enough. Vit and 𝘁3 have been around for a very long time, so it's not completely unrealistic to expect that this team's 5-on-5 is kind of the crux of what their composition can do if they're not at this massive goal advantage.
Now, 40 minutes into this game, 𝘀𝗀cie have the kill advantage, 6 kills to 4, but they trail by 2,000 gold. And in a game where both your top laners, both your mid laners are these hyper-scaling monsters, and I think we can agree on that. Sure, Camille maybe spikes a little bit earlier than the Gwen, but they're still going to be massive into the late game. This is a nice advantage for 𝘀𝗀sky to have in their bid to take us to Game 3.
I just want to say that 𝘀𝗀cie have had first move on a number of things. They've had good fights here and there. It has been the bot lane that's actually taken off completely inside of this game. We talked about the hyperscaling of Aphelios. Aphelios has 10 plates under his back pocket. They have the 2 dragons. This is the play from earlier, which had the pop it. But this is peanuts that we're getting here, right? It's 2 kills that are coming over to the side of 𝘀𝗀cie after they burn the majority of ultimates inside of their kits. They're burning summoner spells during this process, and all of it to be traded back onto Aomine just for taking the top lane tower and getting those plates off the board. It is incredible the amount of gold that they've actually been able to get into their team fighting source on the side of 𝘀𝗀sky to the point where it's like a 2,000 gold advantage. If you watch this game and didn't have the gold score, I'm guessing a fair number of people would be like, wow, it's probably 𝘀𝗀cie who's winning this game, when in reality, I mean, 𝘀𝗀sky has got this insane late game that's already on deck.
And it's one of my favorite things about watching competitive league, seeing a team that has more kills but being behind in goal. And I think it's such an interesting nuance to the game, really. But I want to look forward to the upcoming or the ensuing team fights and essentially get your thoughts on who are we watching out for 𝘀𝗀cie's team fights and for 𝘀𝗀sky's team fights.
I think there's a legitimate fear that has to be had, which is that 𝘀WWE has multiple ways of forcing in teamfights, right? You've got 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀, you've got 𝘀𝗀𝘀𝗀, you've got 𝘁𝑖N to be able to help set things up, and you've got decent damage sources on single targets with the combination of the Talon and the Rise. That setup is there. Skye, now versus Skye have a couple of ways of like teamfights going their way, because again, you've got 𝘁𝗍�vigil, which is humongous, and you've got Shockwave in your back pocket, but these pieces don't fit together perfectly. So you have to be the ones initiating on Burst the Sky in order to really make the most of this effect. To me, that means they actually are willing to give up river pressure most of the time in order to get what would be mid control and then work your way into river, because if they decide to put their bodies all around neutral objectives and they're in the pit, they're stacked together, this is where the 𝘁𝗍�vigil, where the Shockwave are going to be most effective. So they have to be the ones to respond to a neutral objective rather than fighting out of the pit, where maybe you don't have that same kind of clumped together team to work with.
𝘀WWE Esports to stay slightly more spaced apart. And as you said, 𝘀WWE have more methods of engaging. They've got the 𝘀𝗀𝗀, they've got that 𝘀cie𝗰𝗋 as well. And we've even seen just 𝘁𝗀𝗀 being able to run down at people, almost thinking that he's Draxar on the Ood here.
What in the world? He just dropped it between towers.
Yeah, why not? See,
what?
Charge of instantly, but now there's a potential flank coming on in from 𝘁𝗀𝗀. Gonna be able to find the lockdown. 𝘁𝟑 is dead. There is no Shockwave. The curtains have been opened, but do the curtains bring enough damage? The damage on Ryuk is fairly respectable from a Deadly Flourish. Will be able to get the lockdown, and it is a 2-for-2. versus Skye losing their mid laner and support. 𝘀Xury losing their top laner and jungler, which means that BTS have their jungler up. A Draxar can look towards the Drake.
Yeah, you've got very big health bars here on Vit and H3 who are coming to try to contest against this, but again, also 𝘀𝗀𝗍𝗀, full health bar. He's going to be able to walk through you. Teleport's going to come in as they're going to try to capture on the backside. Hopefully Blazes can carry this fight for them.
This is going to make it a 3v3. How much damage can Blazes put out? Enough to get the kill onto 𝘀𝗀𝗍𝗀. Now they can look for Draxar. The overload won't connect. Ryuk down low. The Shockwave is whiffed by 𝘁𝟧, and it will be a 1-for-1, but crucially for 𝘀Xury, they are able to get the kill on to the BTS ADC, even if they can't secure the Drake.
This is, okay, now Burst the Sky have set up a situation where they control neutral objectives from this point into the game. They can threaten Ocean Soul at any point. They can threaten Baron because they've got this insanely fed marksman as well as solid team fight to be able to work with. Can we talk about Shirley's dance here, though? Like, the cancellation on the charge into the main tower only to just, like, backslide into the back tower. That was insane to me. I don't know how in the world that worked out, but that was okay. Look at 𝘀𝗀𝗍𝗀's positioning during this fight, though. This entire time, nobody's there to contest. H3 came in from the side. They didn't end up bursting him out. But as the rest of the team is kind of going down, being these meat shields out in front, 𝘀𝗀𝗍𝗀's just able to freely attack into the team. Blazes ended up losing a fair amount of his health off the back of that 𝘁𝗍�vigil, which is what prevented him going in the, which is what cost them a dragon. And that's a fear that you're going to have for the remainder of the game here if you're Burst the Sky. If you let Rise or even 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 or 𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, a number of these members, onto 𝘀𝗀𝗍𝗀, he's going to die very quickly. You have to play the way that fight actually played out. Make sure he's protected. Make sure that he is in as far back as he can, and use these ranged ultimates to the best of your ability to win fights ahead of time.
I just want to say I'm absolutely loving the performance, loving the gameplay from 𝘀Xury and Burst the Sky, and I hope that they can replicate this kind of gameplay against the top teams in the league, the likes of 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, the likes of Buffalo, and the likes of 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀. We will be seeing 𝘀𝗀𝗀 and 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 playing in our next series, as BTS just looking to steal away this red buff. Can 𝘀Xury look to go in? Because all the while, Ryuk's actually just on the top side of the map. He does have teleport available, though.
It's a matter of, I'm starting to come to also this idea of like what's going to happen with side lanes eventually, because you've got 𝘁 versus the likes of 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 in a side lane, but you also have Orianna and Rise, and Rise typically is just always going to be amazing in a side lane, and Orianna oftentimes just wants to find herself in team fights, which means 𝘀Xury, I think honestly they could play out team fight as best as possible if they've got the right setup for it. But if you're really terrified of 𝘀𝗀𝗍𝗀's like 𝘁𝗍�vigil and the Shockwave from coming through, you could play this as a split map as much as possible, playing in a 4-1 or even a 1-3-1, something along those situations, just to use these side laners to the best of your effects.
And actually, looking at 𝘀𝗀𝗍𝗀 right now, 4-1, he's got 2 items, but looking to our side laners, 𝘁𝗀𝗀 and Ryuk, both of them on 1 item, and 𝘁𝗀𝗀 is getting to that power spike of having the Divine Sundra and the Ravenous Hydra. Ryuk has to wait for kind of more the 4-5 item marks to be that real menace that we all know 𝘀 to be.
Gonna take a very hot minute, especially since Ryuk fell decently far behind, didn't get any tower plates, wasn't able to make too much. And I love this lane setup so much now, because what is Gwen going to be able to do into a Ryze? You can try to out DPS a Ryze who is ahead of you, but it's just not going to work out super heavily, and his range is so low that the W doesn't have the same kind of effect that it does into what would be, you know, something like something range like a Jhin or like a 𝘁𝗀. Not that the Camille has that problem either, but Camille also has a legitimate kill threat into Glory and has a way to dodge out on the shockwave. That is a preferred lane setup, and I like that 𝘀𝐶ury was using it right there to exploit, to make sure that the Ryze was able to get some solo gold. Now, I mean, gold advantage is pretty much relatively even. You talk about 800, 900, maybe call it 1K if you want to be generous towards 𝘀𝘀. Most of the gold on that team is in the pockets of 𝘂𝗎, and they've got these 3 dragons, but that is pretty much the crux of their advantage, is their team fighting setup is available to them because all the gold is in the right place, and they control when these team fights are supposed to happen.
And surely that also means that for the side of 𝘀𝐿𝐿ury, when these team fights do happen and you're looking towards that crowd control, the likes of Coated with that Hextech ultimatum, surely it has to be targeted onto 𝘂𝗎. If they can get him out of the fight, the gold advantage for BTS is gone. As now we've got a trade coming on to 𝘂𝗎. 𝘂𝗎 in a 1v2, he's not going to be able to survive that. 𝘀𝐿𝐿ury will pick up the kill.
Easy enough. And now that's also only 40 seconds before the dragon actually comes up. This is where the threat of the Baron could come in handy to try to pull off what would be 𝘀𝐿ury from the dragon on the bottom side of the map. But it feels like they're not going to fall for that bait, just because they know that they will win a fight. And especially now, I mean, 𝘀𝘀 has to know they have to give up the next dragon pretty much altogether.
Oh, that's the engagement. That's going to be a 2-man stun with the 𝘁𝗀𝗀. The Thresh is down, but 𝘂𝗎 is still alive. The Moonlight Vigil, my God, that is a lot of damage from the Aphelios. Now they look to H32, and 𝘀𝐿ury biting off way more than they can chew.
I really thought right there that was a mistake and a half from 𝘀𝘀, because Elio threw out the lantern and he was running back closer to the rest of the enemies, and they engaged on him, and he took the lantern, and I'm like, what are you doing? You cannot do that, 𝘂𝗎.
Oh no, 𝘂𝗎! You can't tank like that! You
What
can't
in the
tank with your
world?
W up! Oh,
This is...
either way, I don't know what to say about that.
I don't know what to say about any of that situation, anything that just happened over the last few minutes.
Oh, that was almost as bad as the Vex W flash that we saw yesterday.
Okay. This is confirmed Ocean Soul, though, all things said and done.
Yep.
That was super risky from 𝘂𝗎 to take that. But the fact that they burnt everything into Elio first, watch this whole situation, because, again, I'm worried. Like, he's right on top of the champion, so you don't take that lantern in 100 years. But the flash gets him out, and that humongous Infernal ultimate tore through those health bars. You saw Blaze's got dropped. You basically one-shot another member. Second member, that's the support going down. The only thing that got messed up was, unfortunately, that kill that ended up going up. But this is the response from 𝘀𝐿ury. They have a moment where maybe 𝘂𝗎's not going to be ready. They're going to snag the Baron.
Baron's been secured. Draxthar looking to just run on in. He's going to be able to sidestep the Everfrost, but are BTS ready to follow up? Because Draxthar's, he's just in 4 members, and BTS aren't there. He's not even going to be able to get to the lantern in time. Coated gets the kill, and BTS just not on the same wavelength as their jungler.
I don't think they care that much. It looked like this whole intention was stalling, because Glory and Ryuk were moving up mid lane alongside 𝘂𝗎 pretty much no matter what. It felt like Draxthar was just poking away at them, saying, okay, I'm going to be a little bit of a pack, try to stop some backs and make sure that they can't defend against the mid tower fast enough after the Baron back recalls. And yes, he did get turned on and get killed. It's not going to mean much in the grand scheme of things. 1 kill going over is not going to mean as much as the Baron. And as much as you want to say, okay, that's going to be helpful, the mid push that actually just got accomplished actually helped set up for the back timer that let 𝘂𝗎 get back to defend that. That means that now the defense of these towers could be there, and that this Baron buff's probably not going to mount to too heavily not that much, as long as 𝘀𝐿ury isn't able to force onto one side of the map. That was I actually have to say, while it did lead to Draxthar dying, and he probably didn't need to die, all things said and done, the idea behind the play was really well thought out from the side of 𝘀𝘀.
Okay, I want to talk about this Ocean Soul. How impactful is this for 𝘀𝘀 in the remainder of this game?
I don't think it matters that much.
Okay,
really
cool.
don't.
I like that. A game that is still on the cards as 𝘂𝗎 looking to turn things around. The damage coming through with the needlework isn't enough. Elio getting caught, forced to flash away as the Twisted Advance pushes forward. We'll lock down a few members, but you can see just how low Blaze has got taken, and the side of 𝘀𝐿ury forced to back away.
Yeah, stepping back into this Ocean Drake discussion, I feel like Versus Guy takes this, right? And the only member that it feels really great on is 𝘁𝗀, because 𝘁𝗀 is like, he's already getting burst down, he needs sustain in fights, he's got the sustainable damage, he's got the Conqueror. Now it's going to be really hard because he gets this burst healing that comes out, his ultimate already helps him with that. Everybody else on this team, it's like, okay, it's great to have healing. Like, it's great to have healing on 𝘂𝗋, that's fantastic. But if he's getting threatened to potentially die, he probably dies, and the Ocean Drake's not going to save him. Like, he's not going to out-sustain somebody with an Ocean Drake that he wasn't already going to do with an Immortal Shield, though. It just doesn't matter that much. And if they get onto 𝘂𝗋, he probably dies, because there's a lot of members that are very threatening to the poor little Aphelios in the backline if he is not able to flash or use this Moonlight Vigil effectively. So the Ocean Drake, valuable. I think what it actually does, it helps set up for the Elder Drake that's going to be coming in only a little bit of time, and that Ocean Drake's just another little aspect to help out the team fighting that comes in for Burst the Sky.
I feel like 𝘀𝗀cie have a very small window to be able to win this game, and that window is around now. Now that 𝘁𝗀cie has hit their kind of mid-game power spike and 𝘁𝗀 still on the weaker side, only has 2 items. And again, we're still waiting for 𝘁𝗀ie to be able to complete the stopwatch, complete the Rabadons. Once that Orianna gets the Rabadons, the damage is going to be disgusting for BTS, and I get the feeling that 𝘀𝗀cie won't be able to come back after that point.
It's all about, at that point, in terms of team fighting for 𝘀𝗀cie, is being able to split apart a team fight altogether, right? Okay. If you are fighting in a 5-on-5, originally I was like, okay, 𝘀𝗀cie's fine as long as they don't get hit with big ultimates. It seems almost inevitable now that you're going to get hit with one of these big ultimates. And so what you really need to do is break the fight into multiple pieces, 2-3 skirmishes that are small on the side, and make sure you're taking them like that. Because that now allows, okay, what happens if Ryze interacts directly with 𝘂𝗋? What happens if you're able to get Vit and or H3 onto 𝘂𝗋 or 𝘁𝗀ie and burst somebody out really effectively in this one-on-one situation? That is how you best use all of this burst damage that is held from the side of 𝘀𝗀cie Esports, because they've got the gold to burn down someone's health bar if necessary. It's just about being able to access it. If you're playing 5-on-5, it's a lot harder to make sure you're getting onto 𝘂𝗋, but if you're in 2v2s, 3v3s, that type of situation, all of a sudden those pathways seem a lot more open.
Or just look to get the pick onto 𝘁𝗀 once again. Is 2v1. The teleports are coming down. 𝘁𝗀 has been taken down. 𝘁𝗀ie with a big shockwave, but not quite big enough in the Realm Warp, will take a 𝘀𝗀cie out. And BTS can't really do much with that. And that has been the story for 𝘀𝗀cie. They are always looking for the pick onto 𝘁𝗀. It's always 𝘁𝗀ed and 𝘁𝗀 looking for that pick, getting the pick, and then looking for these 5v4 fights afterwards. But now, those are 3 critical ults down for the side of 𝘀𝗀cie.
This is insane. Like, just pointing this out, again, you look at the gold amount that is on 𝘂𝗋 right now, he's got 4 completed items. They're still down 2,000 gold. There's down almost 3,000 gold at this point to 𝘀𝗀cie Esports, because they have this balance of multiple carries that are capable of doing work, plenty of work inside of fights. As right there, that is the 𝘁𝗋 Chainsword completed for the Camille. So that's 3-item Camille, 3-item Talon, 3-item Ryze, 3.5-item Ryze, especially with the Elixir coming about, as well as almost a 3-item Jhin that's going to be coming through. There's multiple threats that you have to deal with, and this is a fear from Burst the Sky. If you can't kill all of them before somebody gets access and is able to eliminate 𝘂𝗋, 𝘁𝗀ie, whoever the carry might be, that the rest of the members don't have the gold to carry the remainder of the fight. So much of this game is actually put onto the back of this marksman here.
And we've just hit probably the most critical point in the game. Elder Drake up in 10 seconds time. 𝘁𝗀 and 𝘂𝗋 making their way down for BTS. That Elder buff, whoever gets this, might very well win this game.
They might. Good control. I still don't like this as much. I actually like that Burst of the Sky is in mid lane right now, gaining mid priority, and then they're working their way into the river, trying to find.
Look at this flank from 𝘁𝗀ed.
They're all over the place, yeah. That would have been a gorgeous little setup from the side of 𝘂𝗋, just because they have to pick somebody to go onto, but they're going to find H3 now. That's going to be near unrespondable too. Oh, what a flash!
He's got the flash over the wall and back into the Elder pit. 𝘁𝗀ed again. He's on the flanking duty. Who gets to pull the engage? Who gets to pull the trigger? And Elder will reset. The Twisted Advance will come through. Drakthar just looking to zone 𝘁𝗀ed away. The curtains have been opened. Look how low Drakthar is. They're going to be able to get 1 kill. And the side of BTS will get absolutely slaughtered. 𝘁𝗀 will fall. That's the ace. 𝘀𝗀cie out on top. The teleports into the bottom lane. A game on a knife's edge and 1 play. 𝘀𝗀cie win 1 key fight, Rebel, and it is the most key fight of the game.
The flank setup, and not to mention that twisted advance, it put so much pressure, unrealistically respondable pressure, onto the side of 𝘀𝘀_𝗀𝗀. They all panicked and ran into the same area, and it set up multiple targets of damage to just get ripped through. I'm pretty sure 𝘀𝘀𝑆 hit multiple people for like half, if not more, of their health bar right there, as that's 𝘀ક્ષy. They turn the game around, 𝘂𝗎𝗎 can't carry, and they're gonna walk away with another 2-0 here this split.
Wow. I really want to see a replay of that final fight because I don't know if 𝘂𝗎𝗎𝗎 was able to get any damage. I don't know if he was locked down, but I just can't quite believe that. And you've got to feel bad for 𝘀𝘀𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀. My God, what did you make of that game?
Oh my God, 𝘂𝗎𝗎𝗀 is fuming. He was so set up. He was so fed. He was in a great position to carry. But as it comes down to it, the Ocean Soul really doesn't do that much unless you get those really long, extended sort of dances and back and forth poke. But there wasn't a lot of poke coming out of BTS. And when they did eventually sort of get collapsed on, it was 𝘀𝗀 getting caught out by the 𝘁𝗎𝗎, who already has the grievous wounds, and that just shuts down any other healing that comes out of the Ocean Soul. And that lets 𝘀𝗀 jump into the backline, blow up everybody, gets like a triple kill off his ult immediately, and that ends the fight, that ends the game, that for the most part, until that lost Baron, was very firmly BTS. Then they lost it to... Then that Baron just... Oh.
Whew.
I mean, you
That's
both
a lot of thoughts.
You both said 𝘀ક્ષy are going to win this one, but I was watching the whole game and I was hyped for game 3. And honestly, I'm actually feeling kind of proud of both of these teams. Two teams that were, as I said, in Spring Split at the very bottom. They had to go through the qualifiers to get back into the VCS A split. And in game 2, I think they both played really, really well.
It is... I'm happy to see that 𝘀𝘀_𝗀𝗀 now has a bot lane that does something. That's at least helpful. If they can get 𝘀𝑨y and they can get 𝘀𝗀 up to snuff, if they can get a top laner that does something in the course of the game, maybe this team actually starts to compete, which is quite nice. But yeah, I'm really happy with 𝘀ક્ષy. That would have been a very easy game to just lose outright in a number of situations, but they stuck their nose down into the grindstone and they made sure that they were competitive all the way through. Game 1, super clean, showing off their ability to just close out a game that they were guaranteed to win from basically the 10-minute mark. And that second one was a lot more of a slog, a lot more of a brawl, and they showed that they could win games like that too. I hope that this translates into more future games like this, into some of our mid and top tier teams, because man, 𝘀ક્ષy is looking real good right now.
And 𝘁𝗀𝗎𝗀𝗀's camera is super excited by what's happening. I don't know why, because in our Discord call, it's looking perfectly fine, but on the stream, I can see it's gone.
On the stream,
you wiped it away. I don't know how you managed that one. But okay, final thought that I want to get from both of you is, I know for me, I predicted both these two teams to finish at the bottom of the split again. It's now completely different for me. What do you think, if you had to put it in a percentage chance, for these teams to make it into playoffs? And I know this is very, very early to ask that, but I'm super hyped. I'm super on this hype train right now.
So
Did you say
playoffs? I'm not 100% sure how many teams are getting into the playoffs, but if it's 6, 𝘀ક્ષy should be 100% in there. If it's only the 4, yeah, I think they could take a crack at SBTC and try and climb their way in.
Rebel?
I think that I want to see them play against a team that is not 𝘀𝘀_𝗀𝗀 first before any other decision to be made. There's that. There's the fact that they could have just played what is the bottom team in the split, or one of the bottom teams of the split, because I think I have them pegged for 7th and 𝘀ક્ષy at 6th, if not 5th, somewhere in that area. But that showing right there gave me a lot more confidence in their development over the course of the split. I was worried that they were going to walk in and they were going to look exactly the same, the way that 𝘀𝘀_𝗀𝗀 unfortunately did today. But here it looks like 𝘀ક્ષy actually made significant strides in making sure that their team was a lot better off for this split. So I'm happy with where they've been able to grow to. I'm hoping that now they can make that playoff push. If it is 6 teams, they'll almost certainly grab that spot. And if it's top 4, I mean, somebody's got to contest for that middle of the pack. Our middle of the pack has always been weak in the VCS, and I'm happy to see there might be some contention for once.
Now, with that, we're going to be jumping on into a short break. And after that break, we are going to be having our second series of the day. As 𝘀𝗀, take on Cerberus. Should be an absolute cracker. Maybe, dare I say, even better than the series we just witnessed. Stay tuned.
I
We'll be
hope
back
so.
in a moment.
These are meant to be two of the top teams, so I hope it's better.
This was a banging series, all right? You can't hope for too much. Actually, you can hope for too much. It's always a good thing, but we'll be back in a short moment. Stay tuned here at VCS English.